All right. Hey, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Restored Mind Show. My name's Matt Codde, and thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. So on this episode today, I just wanted to talk about one simple word, and that's the idea of control. And the main topic that I really want to introduce today is this idea of letting go of control. And because in my opinion, in many ways, the attempts to control something beyond our control are in many ways the cause for most of our anxieties, worries, and problems in our life, right? When we are attempting to control something that can't be controlled, what happens is that we expend a lot of effort attempting to do so, and when we realize we can't do that, again, it kind of just, we feel deflated, defeated, overwhelmed. And so I wanted to talk about this idea, and again, this can apply to really any aspect of anxiety, but just this idea of with anxiety as a whole, right? Anxiety is this idea of, a future-based fear or problem, right? Or threat, right? So, if we look at the coronavirus, it's the idea of, what if I get the coronavirus, right? What if my family gets the coronavirus, or the secondary ramifications that a lot of us are worried about, like what's going to happen with the economy, or what's going to happen in my retirement, or, am I going to lose my job, right? These are all aspects and examples of the idea of like future-based fears that we get anxious about. And because we get anxious about, then we attempt to try to control that one situation. And that's really, the definition of an anxiety disorder, right? Is we're trying to control something that can't be controlled, or we're trying to become certain about something that we can't be certain about. And we end up investing a lot of energy and time and effort into trying to be certain about that. And it's not that these aren't bad questions or anything like that, but the reality is that these are all things that are simply beyond most of our control, right? And so instead of assuming that we need to control it, I kind of want to take a step back from that one assumption right there and just ask this simple question, right? And when it comes to your life, whatever this is about, whatever you might be staying up late worrying about while you're driving your car or taking a shower, right? Instead of being where you are in life, if you find yourself in the future worrying about something or trying to control something, I want you to just ask yourself this question. Why do I feel like I need to control this? And when we ask that question, right, it kind of forces us to look at it and look at some of maybe the underlying beliefs we have about that situation or about the future as a whole, right? Many of us, without even really realizing it, carry around this belief that the future is going to be bad unless I do something about it, unless I intervene. Right? So we spend our days worrying and obsessing and engaging in all these different behaviors in an attempt to control the future. And the reality is that the idea of a control is an illusion, right? We don't have control over most of the things in this life, right? In this world, right? I mean, we really don't, right? We can't control if we're going to get into a car accident or if someone's going to get sick. I mean, we can take actions to prevent and do our best to protect ourselves. And I'm not saying we shouldn't do that. Of course we should. But when you get into this point of I need to control something, meaning I need to make the world go a certain way, right? And if it doesn't go that way, then I'm not going to be okay. Instead of just defaulting and acting on that, right? I'd encourage you to take a step back from that and kind of challenge that internal belief there that you need to control something, and if you do need to control something, if you feel the need to control, like asking yourself, well, why do I need to control, right? And then looking at that belief, like, hey, what do I believe about the future? Do I just believe the future is going to be bad, or maybe I can't handle it if it's going to be bad, right? Your ability to handle something if it does arise. Because these beliefs are what ultimately drive these behaviors that we engage in, right? Now, for myself, I know, this was a big part of my life, right? I needed to control, and especially when I was really lost in that kind of lens of anxiety, right? It was a lot of my behaviors came about controlling, right? Even controlling other people, right? Oh, don't say that because you can't trigger me. But if we really look at control, right, what we're doing, all we're doing in many ways is we have an emotional disturbance within us, right? In many cases, this is in the form of anxiety, right? But I mean, it could come up in a variety of ways. That emotional disturbance happens. And by us trying to control our environment, what happens is we're actually trying to neutralize that feeling that we have within us. And we like to think that it's an environmental issue, right? We tell ourselves that, right? We even may justify it, right? But at the end of the day, what we're really doing is just trying to neutralize and control a feeling within us, and we're oftentimes using the environment to do that. The problem with that is that if you rely on your environment being a certain way for you to be okay in here, the reality is that there's going to be many situations where you're not okay in here, right? You're just not going to be okay, right? So if it's like, I need to make sure that, I never lose my job, or that this and this and this. And if you have those like definitive statements, and I'm not saying that's good, but the reality is losing a job, while painful, and I've gone through that, and I know many other people have as well, it sucks. But at the end of the day, when you go through these challenges, what happens is oftentimes other doors open that you never even fathomed, right? And it might be a tough time in the temporary period, but it very often cases leads to better things in the long term of your life. And the idea of you not being able to handle it, well, like if you're going to live life trying to control it because you're afraid you can't handle it, the reality is you're not going to grow, right? And in these situations, it's like, I think the thing that I just want to, come back to again and again is like, look, what are you trying to control in your life that is beyond your control? Because of course you want to take action and try to control and exert control over the things you have control of, right? Should you, get groceries and make sure you have food in the house? Yeah, of course. All those things are in your control, right? But at the end of the day, like, when you're trying to control something you can't control, what that's going to do is cause you to expend a lot of energy and over something that is just useless, is wasted time and energy in many ways, because you're never going to get certain about that, right? Like, you're never going to reach that point where you're like, okay, I got that under control now, right? And even if you do think that, oftentimes that's just like an illusion that we create to make ourselves feel better. And realizing that, look, you know what? And really adopting some different belief structures about the way life is and the way the world is like, man, like, what if instead of always thinking the future is going to be horrible, like, what if you said, hey, you know what, maybe the future is going to be great, right? Instead of thinking that and you can't handle the future, is like, hey, you know what, I'm gonna figure out how to handle it whenever that arises, and having that internal trust within yourself, right? Developing that competency, and again, that's all competency is, right? Competency isn't the ability to handle anything; it's the internal trust to say, I'll figure out how to handle it when it happens, right? And that's what real competent individuals do, is it's not that they know how to handle everything, because they don't. Like, life is going to toss stuff at you that's new all the time, right? But what the difference between a competent person and an incompetent person might be a certain level of skill set, but it's really the internal trust, so I've seen anyway, that to say, hey, you know what, I'll be able to handle it. Like, I'll be able to address it, whatever it is, right? I'll figure out how, and that trust within themselves to say, you know what, I'll figure it out, right? And I can figure it out. I can learn new skills. I can learn how to overcome it. And the idea this week, really when it comes to managing ourselves well during this crisis, the thing that I just wanted to bring up is just, letting go of control in the places that you need to let go of control of. And that's something that maybe you can take a little inventory this week, a little journal. It just says, hey, look, like, what am I trying to control that's beyond my control? And realize that that's actually causing you a lot of inner turmoil. So to free yourself, from this is just saying, you know what, I'm going to let that go. And it doesn't mean that you don't care about it, or you're not, like, you don't think it's important. But what it's saying is like, look, that's something I don't have control over, and me investing time right now, all that's doing is taking me out of my life right now, and things I could be doing that could be really positive, time you could be spending with your family, all these things that we could be doing right now, because I'm trying to control something that's beyond my control. what I'm doing is I'm taking myself out of my life, right? And again, saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to trust that this will unfold how it's going to unfold, and I'll be able to handle whatever unfolds as a result of that. And trusting, hey, you know what? It will actually may work out for the best, you know? And if you go into that and just letting go of that need to control, you're going to find a lot more internal peace inside, right? Which again is going to help you manage yourself better, manage your relationships better, and so on and so forth, right? Because again, the more internally you can be at ease, right? The clear choices you're going to make, you know, the better interactions you're going to have with people, and the real difference is going to come, you know, through you during this time, right? Because if you're in the future freaking out about something and getting in a an internal chaos and then attempting to control everything to resolve that chaos, again, the problem is not what you're trying to solve. The problem is that you're having this internal disruption, and letting that go, meaning not getting involved with it and not trying to control something to resolve it. I mean, like, and once you can see that, and again, this is obviously talking about situations where you're anxious about something, but once you can really see that and start to let that go, and what I mean by that is just simply, you know what, I'm not going to get involved in that. I'm going to trust in God, or, you know, whatever you're going to put your faith in, and say, hey, you know what, that'll work itself out, or I'll be able to handle it whenever it happens, if it does happen. And just coming back to the present. Because when you can do that, again, you're going to be internally much more balanced, much more at ease, and much more present in your life for the people that need you. And so those are just kind of the thoughts I wanted to share this week on this idea of control and letting go of control in this time of chaos, and pandemic, because again, we just want to manage ourselves to the best of our ability. So hopefully that was helpful. And again, if you're struggling with anxiety, again, I really encourage you to head over to restoredminds.com, where we have free assessments. We have our Overcoming Anxiety program. We're doing weekly live calls with the community, where we do Q&As, and we just discuss, the common struggles that we're all going through to support one another. So if that's something you're struggling with, at restoredminds.com, we have some free resources available for you, assessments as well, that you can take. And I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in today. Please be sure to subscribe and give us a like, and share this with someone if you found it helpful. And so thank you, and I will see you guys next week. Hope you guys have a wonderful week, and be safe. Take care.